All right, Oklahoma fans, college football fans, welcome into Oklahoma at the voice of college football. Sorry, a little bit of technical difficulties getting up and getting live today, trying to make everything work from the hotel room. But nonetheless, we are here live on a Tuesday evening to talk a little bit of Oklahoma college football. It's a really good time to be an Oklahoma Sooner. It's an exciting time to be an Oklahoma Sooner because there's a big matchup this week. You come off of a big win, and I don't say big win in the sense that uh, you know Oklahoma should really be too surprised that they beat South Carolina, but the fact that you beat South Carolina, the way that you beat South Carolina, you feel good about it. And so for Oklahoma fans, for the Oklahoma program, the football program, they all feel you got to feel extremely excited right now with where Oklahoma is. And so, really good week to be an Oklahoma fan, to be an Oklahoma Sooner. And we're going to dive into it because now you have a very big task ahead with Ole Miss coming into Norman on homecoming weekend. And for Oklahoma, there's just so much that rides on this game for very obvious reasons as well. So it's a very important one. I know the line opened at 3.5. Oklahoma now a 4.5 point favorite. Top 10 ranked Ole Miss. It doesn't get much better than this. It doesn't get much better than this week for Oklahoma, for the Oklahoma Sooners. But first, for everybody who is watching, if you are not watching on YouTube, jump over to YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Help us keep on growing here at Oklahoma at the voice of college football. We've got so much that we are offering to our listeners, to our viewers, those who tune into this show. We offer shows on Sundays, Mondays. You've got the Sooner Smiths with Chad Tierney Smith. And then, of course, Tuesdays right here, Oklahoma Sooners Live with myself. Thursdays, preview show. And then Saturdays, post game. That is 5 days of content that we offer Oklahoma Sooners fans. So if you would, just hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. 2 free, easy ways to help support the show and help us keep on growing. Share it with a friend. Follow us on social media, all that fun stuff. You can follow the voice of college football as well. The network does a bunch. So if you are into just college football in general and you don't want to listen to just the Oklahoma Sooners sports talk, then jump over and check out the voice of college football as well. But another great way to help support the channel, help us keep on growing here, and help us building a community is by becoming a member today. You can become a member by clicking the link down below, go to the channel, hit join, or just scan that little QR code over there on the bottom right-hand side of your screen. Scan that. If you're not watching from your phone, you should be able to scan that real quick and become a member today for as low as $2.99 a month. Of course, $2.99 gets you into the Sooner Nation membership tier. Step it up to Boomer Legends Club at $4.99, and then you can even go all in at Red River Royalty for $9.99 a month. Just some ways to help us keep on growing here. If you're in the live chat, obviously we will always jump over and try to pay attention to the live chat as much as possible. But if you want your chat read, if you want to secure your spot to be read live on the show, then you'll have to drop a super chat or donation. Anyways, without further ado, we can move on from all of the housekeeping stuff and get into it because it's a big week for the Oklahoma Sooners. Make sure to join in on Thursday because we are going to do more of an in-depth preview. And I will hopefully have a guest on with me. We'll see if everything works out there. And a guest from the Ole Miss side of things too. So let's get into it. The Oklahoma Sooners have a lot at stake in this game. And I don't think you can just look at the stakes for Oklahoma and just be biased and act like Oklahoma's the only one that's got a lot to win and a lot to lose here in this game. For Ole Miss, it's the same. For Ole Miss, this is a very much must-win game in many ways. For Oklahoma, obviously, it's a chance to knock off a top 10 opponent at home, and it's something that doesn't happen a ton. And then a chance to move to 7-1 overall and 3-1 in the SEC. Now beating your own SEC record from a season ago would be huge at this point in the season to do that so early. And for Oklahoma fans to build some confidence back into this team, feeling like you're on the right trajectory as a program. And so very crucial, very important for Oklahoma to do it for those reasons. And it would be Oklahoma's third top 25 win of the season. You had Michigan. Auburn was also top 25 when you played them. And then this would be the third one. So it would be a big win for Oklahoma. And of course, they've got many chances down the stretch And it also gets you building some momentum at a critical time for Oklahoma. Right now, you need to be building that momentum as you go down one of the most brutal stretches in all of college football, and I would say probably one of the most brutal stretches in Oklahoma history. I say that with some confidence because I don't know a time in history when Oklahoma's had to face this many great teams. And I'm not just saying good teams, I'm saying great teams all back to back with facing even bunching in Texas and South Carolina into this because it's part of that back half of the schedule where it's very heavy there. And it wasn't really an easy beginning to the schedule for Oklahoma either, facing off with Michigan in week 2, having Auburn come to town, which was a really emotional game for fans, for Auburn, for Jackson Arnold coming back, trying to take down his own team. And then, of course, getting into that Red River rivalry where Oklahoma didn't perform well. They bounced back and show off some things on the ground game, which we will touch on plenty this week, I'm sure. But you give some confidence back to this fan base, back to this team with the way that they performed, not just the fact that they performed well against South Carolina, but the way that they performed against South Carolina. So very important. But then you get into this back half of the schedule with Ole Miss, and then you've got Alabama, Tennessee, Missouri, and LSU, with Tennessee and Alabama both being on the road. So a lot of really tough teams coming down the stretch, and you feel like Oklahoma has to, with Ole Miss being included, has to win 4 or 5 of these games. And you really want to end this season, if you're an Oklahoma fan, if you're on the coaching staff, if you're a player, you want to finish this season. Heck, at this point, if you're on the team, you want to finish it 11-1. But realistically speaking, for a lot of us as fans, we really need to see 9-3, 10-2, because it's a defense that is just so elite, a defense that leads the nation in so many categories, and a defense that is at the top of its game and at the top of the league right now. This is definitely a team that has the potential of going really far, and Oklahoma fans need it from them. They need it. They need the college football playoffs. Brent Venables needs the college football playoffs this year. He really does. I think not just for his own his own. I don't want to say pride, but his own. Yeah, I think that's a good word, and I don't mean that negatively at all. But I think for his own well-being, to know that his team made it that far. There's just so much that goes into it that I think Brent Venables could really use this, especially for his tenure at Oklahoma not going the way that he wanted, as he was able to go upwards in trajectory. His second year, third year, take a big step back. And I think, of course, a lot of, some people calling them excuses, a lot of reasons for Oklahoma to not have performed their first year in the SEC. He doesn't like any of those reasons. He doesn't like having to feed excuses. So he wants this. He wants to get into there. And then, of course, for Oklahoma, I think when you think of this back half of the schedule with road games at Tuscaloosa and at Knoxville, taking on a really good Alabama team and I don't want to say shockingly good Tennessee team, because I don't think it shocks anybody, but a Tennessee team that can probably sneak up on you. And some people not really expecting Tennessee to be as good as they really are. Tennessee's 2 tough losses for them. So it's very crucial for Oklahoma with these last 5 games here that you end up winning at least your home games, protecting your home turf, and then trying to win on the road going forward. I think if you can pull off one of those road games and win all of your home games, that puts Oklahoma in the driver's seat to make it to the college football playoffs. Depending on how the SEC shakes up, it could get you to Atlanta to play for the SEC championship game. Now, I'm not saying that I think that Oklahoma will do that or that I'm predicting that by any means, but that's definitely what Oklahoma has on the table ahead of them. So a win this weekend would definitely put them in a good spot to do so. For Ole Miss, they obviously have a lot going into this game too. A lot of stakes in this game. It's playoff hopes on the line, really. I think Ole Miss is in a really good spot right now because you go back to a season ago, they lost to Kentucky. This season, they played Kentucky earlier in the year. They beat Kentucky. Now they lose to Georgia in kind of a heartbreaking fashion, the way that they really dominated that game early and then gave it all up in the fourth quarter. That's where they have some playing room, but your playoff hopes really start to hinge a little bit once you lose to Oklahoma. Who knows? You can't really afford to lose another one. So you want to have that one in your pocket. I think any SEC team, any Big Ten team, heck, any Big 12 team or even ACC team that wins 10 wins, I think that they have a pretty secured spot in making it to the college football. But there's just so many 10-win teams that they can't all get in there. So for Ole Miss, you really just don't want to put your backs up against the wall. I think for both teams, it's pretty crucial in that sense. But for Ole Miss, especially, and for Ole Miss too, this game against Oklahoma is a big way for you to bounce back, and it would go on your resume as a very good win. Nobody's looking at this Oklahoma team and just thinking that they're a bunch of scrubs. A lot of people have doubts that Oklahoma can close out in the back half of their schedule, but nobody thinks that this is an easy Oklahoma team or that losing to Oklahoma is out of the realm for anyone. Heck, that's why Vegas has Oklahoma as a 5-point favorite right now. So this is a a must-win bounce-back game, kind of rebounding from their first loss and really in devastating fashion in that fourth quarter collapse against Georgia. This is also the first road game for Ole Miss since late September. September 20th was the last road game, so it's been a while. It's been a month since they've been on the road. And then, of course, a loss dropping them to 6-2, making the playoff path a little bit more difficult. And so it's very much some at stake. Now, I don't think either one of these teams would lose this game and be out of hope for making the playoffs. Either one of these teams can win, lose in a really tight matchup and still go win out and make it to the college football playoffs. But if you lose this game, it feels like there's other implications leading to possible losses down the road. For Ole Miss, I think there's been a lot of insecurities in some of their game that a loss here in Norman, especially if they were to lose by 5+ points. If it wasn't a close matchup, then I think Ole Miss really starts to think about this matchup and feel like the latter half of that last part of their season is much more crucial. All right, I'm going to jump over to the live chat real quick, check on everybody who's jumping in. Jump in the live chat, and then, of course, all donations, super chats will be read live on the show. Chad, what's up, Chad? Other fellow Oklahoma VOCFB host over here. He says, Boomer, this feels like a must-win for OU as well. Yeah, it's really a must-win for both teams, Chad. It's one of those that just, for Oklahoma, the stretch that you've got coming. So a loss, really in any of these games, starts to make you feel a little tense because you can't afford another loss. If you have 2 losses, that's your max for today's college football playoff. For Oklahoma's case, they do have a case to be made at 9-3, but you don't want to hinge on that. At 9-3, you're really relying on some other chaos to be happening, which is definitely on the table, but it's not totally there. Going over to Modern Day Caveman, what is up, man? He says, I feel a little more optimistic about the offensive line, but we just need to stop the silly penalties on both sides of the ball. Stopping the silly penalties, yes. Maybe not getting called for some of these silly penalties. I felt like Oklahoma has definitely fallen victim, and I think every SEC team has fallen victim to really college football teams. It feels like Oklahoma's falling victim to a lot of penalties that shouldn't be called on them too. But you have to take that into accountability, you have to take that into the factor of this game and recognize that the SEC officiating has just been horrible this year. So you really have to cut down the other ones that you can control. So I would like to see a penalty-less game. It's very tough for that to happen, but I will accept, obviously. I think there's some times when I will accept, probably not in this game, but there's some games, for example, I think the Texas game would have been one that you can accept some personal fouls when you're getting chippy, and sometimes you just get those to get it out of your system. Sometimes I'm okay with those. Obviously, you want to try to cut back. I feel like Oklahoma's kind of given up a lot of pass interference calls that shouldn't be there. I think I'm trying to remember who it was. I know Eli Bowen had one that I wasn't really too upset with, but there was another one earlier in the game, and I'm forgetting who had that one. I don't think it was Hardy. I'm trying to remember who had that earlier on in the game against South Carolina. But there's just some of those. Get your head around, keep your head on a swivel. But yeah, definitely we got to cut those back. And I think a lot of people are starting to feel a little bit more optimistic about the offensive line. I think the offensive line feels a little bit more optimistic about themselves. Jimmy Satterfield, what's up, man? He's in the chat. He says, I hope they keep the run game going. I hope they do too, and I think we should get to that tonight. I don't remember if we're going to get to it tonight. We will definitely touch on that because I think Oklahoma has a really good chance to get that run game going even more against Ole Miss, and maybe even more so than against South Carolina. You're at home, so it takes some of that away. And yeah, I don't know. I feel really good about Oklahoma's run game. All right, yeah, going on. we'll show. I see Mars Jam has been getting in a little bit of conversations here with Bevo's bodyguard. OU's not making it to 9-3. Again, let's try that. Let's put your money where your mouth is, Bevo, because you said that you weren't going to show up again if Oklahoma were to beat Texas, but you sure like to jump in the chat, which we appreciate you jumping in. I don't mind it at all. I appreciate you jumping in and joining in with us. Shows us how much you really care about Oklahoma. So feel free to jump in here all you want. Sooner Cowboys. Really shocking to see you have this optimism here. What has Oklahoma done to give you some optimism? Oklahoma could make it to 9-3. You're saying Oklahoma could make it at 9-3, I think. Okay, so even more optimism there. So yeah, I think Oklahoma could make it. It's just you really have to rely on the judgment of the committee, which asks South Carolina or Ole Miss or Alabama. You don't want to rely on that judgment of the committee. And then on top of that, you have to kind of rely on some chaos to happen, that there's not already 3 or 4 10-win teams in the SEC, for example, because I don't think they're going to put 5 teams from the SEC in the college football playoffs, although weirder things have happened. All right, kind of jumping through the chat real quick. D-Max Bravo, Ole Miss by 10. All right, I like it. Jump in. I'm assuming Ole Miss fan. I'm not sure, or Texas fan. Can't see the. It looks like it might be Texas fan based on the colors there, but can't tell for sure. Too small on my screen to see. But whatever the case may be, join in on Thursday as well, because we're definitely going to get to predictions. I'd like to see your prediction on Thursday, and then we'll try to keep track of all the predictions as well, giving shout outs to those who get it right. All right, let's see. Jimmy says Sooners by 11 over Ole Miss, and I know Jimmy will be on the show on Thursday as well. So very excited to get to that one and be able to talk a little bit more in depth about this game as well, and more of a true preview. Anyways, let's talk about some of the key matchups for this Oklahoma-Ole Miss game, where I think there's a lot that we could dive into, but we're not going to dive into everything. I think it truly comes down to Oklahoma's elite defense against Ole Miss's explosive offense. That is the obvious matchup. First, talking about Oklahoma's defense and what they've been able to do, leading the nation in sacks per game at 4.2 sacks per game. That's just absurd numbers for this Oklahoma defense. Amazing defense. Had one down game, and we know what one that was. This defense had one down game, and they bounced back, and they come back, and the offense also had a bad game and bounced back. A nation leader in yards allowed per game, and I think I've got some old, outdated numbers on some of these stats too. I feel like this one might be outdated, but this is a top defense, no doubt. And then, of course, number 2 in pass defense, allowing just 126.3 yards per game. That one might be an outdated stat that I wrote down before updating this past weekend. But then 13 tackles for a loss against South Carolina, tied for a national lead, and also tied, I believe, either tied or leading right now in tackles for a loss. It's one that I think it's a defense that Oklahoma fans have been waiting on for a long time. It's a defense that Oklahoma fans have been dreaming about for a very long time. And it truly is great to see this defense come to fruition. And it's the defense that you would expect from a Brent Venables-led team, a Brent Venables team that he is calling the shots, and you can tell this season, because this defense truly is elite. And I had a lot of people trying to tell me early on that this isn't an elite defense, but you're seeing each game that it truly is. Not only that, but finally getting some turnovers under its belt. Had some against Kent State, couldn't get any against Texas, couldn't really do anything against Texas. Texas just owned that game. Texas dominated Oklahoma, but then bouncing back against South Carolina, getting a couple of turnovers, and the one was kind of like, I don't really both of them. I'm not even going to touch on it. Oklahoma had 2 turnovers, and you can even add another turnover in there because they got a safety. Now recording a safety in both of their, in 2 of their SEC wins, both of their SEC wins. So getting a safety, this is truly a suffocating defense, a defense that knows how to get in the backfield, get tackles for a loss, and that is the story of this matchup against Ole Miss. And that overlay down below is supposed to say versus Ole Miss's explosive offense, because this offense has a lot of firepower. Before the Georgia game, Ole Miss was number 1 in passing yards in the SEC, number 1 in scoring in the SEC, best third down conversion team in the conference. However, honestly, it wasn't even completely silent against Georgia. It was just in the fourth quarter, and it feels like even Lane Kiffin announced earlier on in a press conference this past week that I believe it might have even been post-game press conference, that he felt like they had a lot to fix leading into this Oklahoma game. And he even kind of gave I think a lot of people taking it as an indictment. I think Brent Venables and myself take that more as a compliment, kind of a hidden compliment, that Lane Kiffin said that Oklahoma's defense looks like they just know the next play, as if they already know your signs. And I don't think he was really accusing him or anything. I think he might have his own kind of, I kind of question it because of how good this defense is. But in some sense, it truly was. It's really how you perceive it. It truly was a compliment to this defense. And you see how this defense performs. A lot of times it just feels like they know what the play is coming. And it comes from a lot of film study. This is a defense that studies film unlike any other Oklahoma team that I've heard of in the past. The way that they study film is relentless. The offense and the defense, really both. But this defense specifically, the amount of film that they get each week and the amount of film that they get already by Monday is truly remarkable. And so you have to give it a lot to this defense and the leadership that they show, and getting their guys in there and getting the rest of the team in to get that film in. They're not just watching it on their own, although sometimes that is the case. They're getting the rest of their group, their position group, together to do these things. And Brent Venables has spoken many times throughout the spring ball, fall ball, and then leading into this season about how much he feels like he has a leader all over the field. Many times he says that he feels like there isn't just that one standout alpha guy. It feels like everybody kind of fills that role. There's so many different guys that fill that role of being a true leader, and truly remarkable again for Oklahoma in that regard. But Ole Miss's offensive firepower against Oklahoma's defense is obviously going to be the big matchup here in this game. Nobody really thinks that it's going to be a high-scoring matchup. It's going to be offense against offense. I think most people believe that it will most likely be kind of that defense winning it for Oklahoma. If there's a way that Oklahoma wins it, it's the offense scores 28 points and the defense holds and does their thing. That's kind of how this season has gone for this team. When the offense can do their part, the defense seems to do just fine on theirs as well. All right, so let's look through here real quick. Jimmy Satterfield says, is Gentry playing Saturday? From what I heard, so I was actually talking to somebody about this. I think he's fine and he's good to go. He was actually trying to get back in the South Carolina game. They held him out. So we will know for sure tomorrow when the availability report is released. But I will definitely keep my eyes on that. I have a pretty good feeling like he's good to go. More of a shakeup more than anything, but I think he will be just fine. All right, and we did get confirmed. D-Max Bravo is in fact a Texas fan, but that's okay. We appreciate you guys jumping in anyways. Even if it is for banter, I'm all for it. Bevo's Bodyguard says no safeties versus Texas. No, Oklahoma sucked against Texas. You heard that right from an Oklahoma guy himself. I have grown up loving this team. Now I get to cover it and do a lot of things in coverage for this team and getting closer to the team. I don't like speaking ill about my own team, the team that I love, but they did. They sucked. Anyways, but I think Oklahoma's definitely had their little bounce back, just like we thought Texas had their bounce back. And you know what? I know that I'm going to get a lot of flack from Oklahoma fans, but I think Oklahoma fans have to hope that Texas does well the rest of the season, because you don't want your one loss being against Texas in that rivalry, let alone being against Texas, and then Texas goes out and has an 8-win season or 7-win season. That's not what Oklahoma fans should want. So you if you lost that team, you at least want it to be, hey, we lost to a tough team, and it that yeah, I think anybody. I mean, I understand the rivalry aspect of wanting your rival to go down, but not for me. I would rather Texas making Oklahoma look a little bit better, obviously. All right, let's go ahead and move on. Some X factors in this game, and I know we were talking about that earlier. I couldn't remember if this was down in the notes for tonight or if I had it later on in my notes for Thursday, but I'm sure we will talk about this on Thursday as well, and plenty throughout the week, because some of the X factors for Oklahoma, I think first and foremost, the biggest X factor for Oklahoma will be, can the run game sustain? Can the run game continue? Can they keep on going the way that they did against South Carolina? Because the Sooners finally found their identity in Torrey Blaylock, who had 101 yards, a career high, tying his career high. And then Xavier Robinson for 158 yards. You had 159 yards from your running backs alone. A leading 171-yard rushing performance from Oklahoma, a season high for this offense. You finally found that identity in this offense through those guys, and it was also a big part, as we mentioned a moment ago, this offensive line, being able to run block, being able to get downfield and do something, going and hitting a guy, putting a helmet on a helmet, and creating lanes for your running backs. And not just that, but when they were going, I think the wide receivers, I think I also have to give some shout out to the wide receivers. The tight ends were stepping up and blocking at times. And so it was very crucial game. It was a crucial game for Oklahoma against South Carolina to get that run game going before you get to the meat of your schedule in some of the most crucial games here left on your schedule with Ole Miss and Tennessee and Alabama. And then, of course, who else am I forgetting? LSU and Missouri. So you've got a lot of games left that you really need that identity. You need to be able to split it up. You need to make this offense more balanced, and they found a way to do that against South Carolina. Can they keep on doing that here against Ole Miss? Because if they can keep it on the ground, they get to control the clock like they did against South Carolina. Controlling the clock is crucial in all of these big games. Any big game, any game where you are going against another great team, controlling the clock and that time of possession is so important, because you keep their offense off the field. When you keep their offense off the field, the obvious one is they can't score. They can't score if their offense isn't on the field, unless your offense is just horrible and keeps on throwing pick sixes and scooping scores. But that's not going to be the case. We have enough confidence to say that won't be the case. But this will truly be an Oklahoma rushing attack, the rushing attack that has to keep on going. It gives their defense, who is among the nation's best, top 3 defense. I keep on saying that. I will keep on saying that until somebody proves me otherwise. It gives that defense even more opportunities to dominate when they keep that defense off the field, keeping Ole Miss's offense off the field. So run game is extremely crucial, not just in this game, but building off of that South Carolina game, going on into the future, into these last several games. So, and not only that, but real quick, something that I know I'm jumping ahead of myself and we'll talk more about on Thursday, is that when we compare Ole Miss, and I was kind of curious when we were first talking about this in our post game, and then even on Sunday's episode, when we were talking about this Ole Miss team and Oklahoma looking forward to them. Ole Miss ranks, I believe, they're in the 90s. I don't have that stat in front of me right now, but they're in the 90s in total rushing defense. I believe it was 98, if I remember correctly. South Carolina was 75th. So South Carolina was a better rushing defense statistically than this Ole Miss defense. Now, I will say that I think Ole Miss has gone against some very good opponents, some teams that have really tried, done really well. And LSU, I think LSU would have beat Ole Miss if they would have found their run game, if they would have stuck to the run game. So for Oklahoma, very crucial to get that run game going, and keep it and get it to continue, because it's really big for this game, but it's also really big for the games coming up on the rest of your slate. All right, and moving on for Ole Miss's mental state. How will the Rebels respond? I think that's another X factor for this game, because Ole Miss obviously losing that tough loss against Georgia. Are you going to bounce back and say that's not the defining moment in our season? We are going to bounce back from that and have a big win on the road at Oklahoma, hostile environment, on their homecoming weekend, and shut them down? Or are you going to linger on it and let that loss against Georgia be a defining moment in your season where you lose 2 in a row? That's where, as an Oklahoma guy, I'm a little nervous when Texas was the same way, and I brought this up with Texas. When the team that you're facing next is coming off of a loss, it gives them a lot more momentum, or not really momentum, but a lot more reason, a lot more to fight for, to get off of that losing streak, not to build one. And so for this Ole Miss team, especially when they're good teams, like Texas was for Oklahoma, like Ole Miss is for Oklahoma, when it's a good team like that, it makes me a little cautious, knowing that they're going to be fighting even harder than they typically would, because they don't want to build a losing streak and cause that narrative. So very, very important for Ole Miss to not get themselves into a slump, and I think that's going to play into this game a lot, and keep their playoff hopes alive and in their own creating their own destiny in their own control. So an emotional response could go either way, either an emotional response in the sense that they're ticked off and ready to move forward with this season and not let that Georgia loss be the defining moment of their season, or it could get them emotional and looking ahead and not thinking too clearly against Oklahoma and losing against the tough Oklahoma team on the road. All right, another X factor would be Oklahoma's secondary, and specifically this secondary against Trinidad Chambliss. So this is a guy, Brent Venables brought this up. This is a guy that has put up stats, obviously not at this level, but has put up stats that have been incredible. Now this season has put up stats at this level that have been incredible, but in his past years, he's won a national championship, not at the D1 level, but he's won a national championship as a starting quarterback at the D2 level for an FCS team. And so he knows what it takes to win. And really, the gap between a lot of FCS teams and FBS teams is not always that far different. And Trinidad Chambliss is one example of where that is true, where there are some guys that just don't get the recognition, or maybe don't get the right eyes. Maybe they didn't have the right plan going forward in their recruitment. Whatever the case may be, it's not always just a complete separation, as if FCS players aren't any good. Now, I think as a whole, the FCS gap is far different. That's why most of the time FBS teams tend to run the table against FCS teams. But Trinidad Chambliss is truly an incredible athlete, an incredible quarterback. He's had some incredible stats this season, and I don't know why I don't have them down in my notes, but I know for a fact I can get them pulled up really quick, because I'm good at thinking quick on my toes. I'm just not good at thinking ahead of time, apparently. But Trinidad Chambliss, 1,549 yards on the season. And just to put that into perspective, he did not play every game of the season. He came in as a backup to take over for Austin Simmons, who got hurt. And now going into that Georgia loss for 263 yards against Georgia, it didn't perform well against them, but he still put up some incredible yards against a tough Georgia team. Not the same Georgia as we're used to seeing, but it's a Georgia that knows how to win, and that's exactly what they did last weekend. Trinidad Chambliss is truly a competitor. He's a scary dude when he gets on the field. Again, Brent Venables was talking about this a lot here this week, and especially I think it was today or yesterday. Kind of getting all my days. It feels like it's been a long week, but it's only Tuesday, so bear with me. But in terms of rushing, he rushes for about 4.5 yards per carry. He has 5 touchdowns on the year and 323 yards on the ground. He's a very fast, very elusive quarterback. He's an athlete. He's a guy that can run around. And I would say a different type of scary than Lenore Sellers. Lenore Sellers can slip free a lot, and he can make contact and slip out of tackles, as we saw on Saturday against South Carolina. Trinidad Chambliss is very shifty, very, very capable of making you miss and hitting the edge, getting around players. So it's going to be very crucial for Oklahoma to be able to shut him down, slow him down. That's going to be very big. But then specifically getting into the secondary, like I mentioned a moment ago, he threw for 263 yards against Georgia, and he can distribute the ball to just about anybody on the field. He's got multiple weapons. Oklahoma's secondary will be tested, and it's going to be a lot on the corners if Gentry Williams plays, which we will talk more about probably on Thursday and get more of a for sure idea on that. And then, of course, you've got Eli Bowen on the other side. You've got to rely on your key guys, Cortland Guillory, and also I think Hardy too. I think Jaden Hardy has also got to keep, both of them have to keep their head on a swivel and be ready for this week. Again, as we mentioned a moment ago, I think Oklahoma, and specifically in that secondary, needs to be able to cut down on some of these penalties that they've been drawing in the pass interference and defensive holding and all of that kind of stuff. So I think it's going to be very crucial for Oklahoma to be able to slow down Trinidad Chambliss in the passing game, because I think I have confidence that they'll be able to slow him down with his feet. But if they can slow him down in the pass game, that's exactly what Georgia was able to do, specifically in that fourth quarter, and you saw how that game ended. So being able to do that, and then of course being able to close the game out, I think is probably another thing that I probably could have thrown down there in for X factors, but that won't be one of them. The last X factor that we'll mention is home field advantage. And I guess this does kind of bleed into closing the game out. Can the stadium make a difference? It's an 11 a.m. kickoff. The crowd is going to be a major factor in this game. How major are they going to be? And that is up to you as an Oklahoma fan to make this stadium a huge factor. We saw that against Michigan. We saw that against Auburn. And now getting a chance to do that against Ole Miss. You have to protect your home turf. They're hosting a top 10 team, and honestly a top 5 talented team, because it wasn't but a week ago that this team was a top 5 team. So this truly is a top 5 talented team, and Oklahoma has to shut them down. So the Palace has to be rocking. It has to be going. I know it's an 11 a.m. kickoff, but you've got to get the energy going early. Drink plenty of coffee. Put some hot honey in that coffee as well. Kind of get those vocal cords warmed up. And it could be a huge factor in disrupting this Ole Miss offense and their rhythm. We've seen that. I know for a fact when we were there for the Auburn game and for the Michigan game, and seeing how the crowd was able to do wonders there, even against Kent State. I don't think Oklahoma was even that loud, but they were able to affect a Kent State team who's not used to even that loud of an environment. A quiet Oklahoma stadium is still pretty loud for a team like Kent State. The home field advantage can truly affect the way that they're calling plays out. Quarterbacks trying to relay a message off to his offensive line and not being able to get them to hear it. Maybe there's a miscue and an offensive lineman takes the wrong assignment. Maybe there's a miscue and the wide receiver runs the wrong route because of the loud environment. It truly does come down to home field advantage for Oklahoma. They need the fans to step up and to step up big here in this game. All right, I will jump to the chat one more time real quick. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button as well. And if you would like to support the channel a little bit further, become a member today. You can just click that, scan that QR code on the screen, or you can click the link down in the description below. Also, just click join. You should be able to see that join button. I think it's there for everybody, but if you're on YouTube, just hit join. Join for as low as $2.99 a month. Become a member today, and it just helps us keep on producing content. And we're also trying to build this channel, build it this fan base, this community. That's the word I'm looking for. So please become a member today to help us keep on growing. And of course, for our Texas fans in the chat as well, you guys feel free to become a member as well. You guys are here and trying to support us in the live chat. You can support us otherwise as well. But hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. 2 free and easy ways to support the channel. And then also check out our merch. We've got a lot of fun merch over at vocfb.com/shop. vocfb.com/shop. Check out that merch. We've got a lot of stuff there. All of that also goes towards supporting the channel here. Going over to Stacy. Hey, Stacy, what's going on? She's in the chat. She says, I cannot stay because I'm working fall carnival. I will watch later. I want to see everyone in the comments later Also, like, share, and subscribe. Love all the support from you, Stacy. Appreciate you so much for jumping in here, even real quick, just to say hello. I like what Believe has to say. He says, I hope we play Texas again. Yeah, I think that's the right mentality for an Oklahoma fan, because Texas only has one SEC loss. So winning out puts them at a chance to be able to make it to the SEC championship. So I think I think that's very much uh, on the table, and I would love that. I think that would be fun. I think kind of be fun for both fan bases to be like, hey, welcome to the SEC, right? We're here on our second season in. Texas would probably have a little bit more to boast about because they were able to make it their last season as well, and then even making it to the playoffs last year. But no, I think that's the right mentality to have. I want Texas to win out because Oklahoma wasn't at their top there, so you want more. D-Max, he says, I got OU fans in my family, so I do not root for them unless they're playing Texas, obviously. See, so I don't probably against them. I want Texas to beat them at their best. Yeah, and I feel you there. I think that's a pretty reasonable, a pretty realistic way to look at it too. I think any Texas fan that is truly honest about themselves, I think you have to be completely honest and just say, hey, we know that Oklahoma wasn't at their best when they played Texas. John Mateer wasn't full strength. He wasn't ready to go in that Texas game. And hindsight's 2020. Maybe you shouldn't have played him. I think they're trying their best to help Michael Hawkins and to keep his red shirt. That's the main reason why he didn't play. And I don't like it, but it was there. Anyways, kind of going through here. Jimmy Satterfield, he says, agreed, this defense is legit, and OU needs to control the clock to keep Ole Miss offense on the sidelines. 100%. And as Mars said, you got to run the ball. And there's a saying that has gone around many football teams for a long time, and it's just simply run the damn ball. And for Oklahoma, that is absolutely the case, especially in this game. That's a weakness for Ole Miss. That's a weakness, and it's a way to hurt them where they're weak. And on top of that, what we're mentioning, run the ball to control the clock, to control that time of possession. So very, very crucial. Excuse me, sorry. Very crucial for this Oklahoma team to keep on running the ball. Don't stop, because you need that to keep on going. Jimmy even says, I hope the crowd shows up and shows out. Needs to, 100%. Absolutely needs to. And I know 11 a.m. kickoffs aren't the best atmospheres, but you can make it better by losing your voice on Saturday. If you're at the game, lose your voice. Even if you're not at the game, lose your voice anyways, just because. All right, we've been on for 44 minutes. I'm looking through my notes and seeing how much I want to touch on today and how much we can hold off. I will say what to watch. Some of it, I think we've already kind of talked about this quite a bit. Oklahoma's front seven has to create pressure. Oklahoma's front seven has to get in there and create pressure and get to Trinidad Chambliss, help the secondary by taking him out, by taking his legs out, forcing him to pass the ball. Secondary helping the defensive line by shutting that pass game down. So and then I'll also help the secondary out by getting them down in the backfield. That would be huge. And I don't have any doubts on this front seven, but that's definitely something that they need to do and contain Chambliss, contain him from being a dual threat, a dual threat liability for this defense. Make him not dual threat, I guess, whatever the wordage that I'm looking for there. Torrey Blaylock. Let's get Torrey Blaylock another 100-yard game. That's what I want to see, and I want to see a career high. I want to see 102 or more yards. Torrey Blaylock, man, I just love the kid. I love him, and seeing him step into that role as a starter this year and as the key back has been so phenomenal, so special, incredible this year. So love seeing that. And I know the Jaden Ott experience didn't work out. It sucks. And Oklahoma lost a lot of money on that. But you can take some solace in the fact that you didn't expect Torrey Blaylock to be there, and he was. So maybe the Jaden Ott experience helped that in some regard. Maybe not. Maybe it didn't help at all. But maybe it was just going to be there regardless. But I just think that, looking past the negative and just recognizing that we got it back, and we got a back that is going to be a 3 or 4 year starter, hopefully 4, but most likely a 3-year starter here at Oklahoma. And man, just pray for his health going forward, and watch him perform on the field. Man, he's truly a special specimen. And shout out to his father as well. I know I see him on X a lot, interacting with him every once in a while, and I know that he has a lot of pride in his boys, and so I like that about him, and about that whole family. A lot of pride in what they're seeing their young boys, young men, their kids, their sons, doing for themselves. It's going to be a really big game. It's going to be crucial for Oklahoma. It's going to be crucial for Ole Miss as well. I think really just about as crucial for either team, because 2 losses puts you with your back against the wall, and you have to win out at that point. So one of these teams is going to walk away 7-1. One is going to walk away 6-2. Which team is going to be which? That will come down to this Saturday. But for everybody watching, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you're not watching on YouTube, jump over there and do that for us real quick. Become a member today for as low as $2.99 a month to help support the program a little bit further, support this channel, help us keep on growing, help us keep on building up a community. Appreciate everybody so much for tuning in. VOCFB.com/shop if you want to buy some merch and help support us there. Of course, join us in here live on Thursday, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. We will deep dive into this matchup, give a more specific prediction, prediction previews, all that fun stuff here on Oklahoma, the voice of college football. I'm your host, Josh Mahler. You can find me on X @RealJoshMahler. This is Oklahoma Sooners Live, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Boomer.